Have you ever stayed in a hostel? Have you ever had a bad experience in a hostel? Have you ever been too scared to stay in a hostel? I have been all of the above. Hello friends, welcome to today's video. We are talking hostels. We are going around the world. We're going to Sweden, we're going to Lisbon, we're going to Japan. It's going to be great. I'm going to be showing you 3 really cool hostels that will hopefully change your mind on how you think about hostels. So it's safe to say that hostels do have a bad reputation for being loud, full of drunks, and quite frankly, dirty. Now, we're not wrong with any of those things, and that is fine. Some people love that. Like, I've honestly had some of the best experiences in my life in what I can only describe as squalor accommodation. But hey, they made a great travel story. I made some good friends. I made some great memories. And that is why I'm making today's video, because I'm gonna hopefully change your mind on how you think about hostels, because hostels are great. Hostels, they let you save money, you stay in some really cool places, you make good friends, you go out and have adventures. It's great. Stay tuned to the end of this video where I'm going to be sharing with you 4 tips on finding a great hostel. So let's just get straight on with the video. First up, we have Home Hostel in Lisbon, Portugal. Now, I visited here in 2018 and it's safe to say I was not disappointed. One of the things that I look at when I'm booking hostels is making sure that the place that I'm staying is a bit of a unique accommodation. Home Hostel Lisbon opened in 2006 and sits in a 200-year-old building. This hostel isn't just a place to stay, it is an experience in a beautiful location in the centre of Lisbon. I loved how looked after you felt at this hostel. There is a woman called Mama who cooks every night for the guests. I think I paid about 10 euros for a 3-course meal and a drink, which is so good. And if I remember rightly, they did breakfast for around 3 euros. Mama ensures you are looked after during your stay. The staff was so friendly and gave daily walk-in tours, pub crawls, and they even did tours to Sintra, which is a beautiful town outside of Lisbon. What I loved about this hostel is that it was clean, spacious, and damn right a beautiful building. The beds were comfy with a privacy curtain and a big locker under your bed. I really did feel like I was at home at this hostel. I remember there was one night, me and my friend, we were staying in Lisbon for 5 days, stayed in this hostel. And it got to like the 4th night and we were just like, do you know what? We just want to have a chilled one. And they had a living room with a big sofa, they had Netflix, we had snacks, and we just watched movies with like other people that were staying in the hostel. It was so nice. The view from our bedroom window was so beautiful. I would happily return to this hostel. The rates varied from £15 for a bed in a dorm, or for a private room, these were around £50. That was Home Hostel Lisbon. I would highly recommend staying there. It was just such a good family atmosphere. And the location is so good. It's like in the center of town. It's easy walking distance to everything in Lisbon. So yeah, highly recommend that one. Next up, we have Peace Hostel in Kyoto, Japan. Now guys, when I say hostels in Japan are different, they are different on another level. During my time in Japan, I stayed at more budget hostels and I stayed at some that were more expensive. Now, when I say hostels in Japan are different, they are different in a good way. They are clean, they are designed well, they are just beautiful to look at. At least that was my experience. Just 5 minutes from Kyoto Station lies this peaceful little boutique hostel which costs around £15 per night. Given this hostel was in Japan, of course the staff were going to be so friendly. They literally would go above and beyond to help me during my stay. This is the lobby and lounge area. What I loved about this hostel is all the social places it has. It makes it great to meet other travelers. I would say I actually visited here during the start of the pandemic, so there wasn't a lot of people around, but that's fine. This hostel even had a rooftop and garden terrace. It didn't feel like you were in a big city at all. My favorite thing about this hostel was the double bed. Well, at least I think they were double beds. I had 2 pillows. It was a dream. After a full day sightseeing in Japan, it was great to have such a comfortable bed to stay in. After all, that is what a hostel is, a place where you can stay whilst you explore. Now, this hostel was definitely a bit on the bougie side because they had Dyson hairdryers, and of course I had to use them. You'll be lucky to get a towel in some hostels, let alone a Dyson hairdryer. I found most hostels in Japan served breakfast, and Peace Hostel had a good choice of foods. The only thing I didn't like was the fact they wrapped everything in plastic, but I think that is just a Japanese thing. I just loved the amenities in this hostel. I mean, free Wi-Fi, it was fast, free coffee and tea 24 hours a day. I mean, can it get better than that? The spec of this hostel was so great. It's all in the little details, from the keyless entry to the earplugs and the slippers they leave by your bed. I think a must for when I stay in hostels is having a privacy curtain if possible. It just allows you to feel like you have your own space even though you're sleeping in a room with a bunch of other people. Overall, the main reasons for me loving this hostel were just the staff. They were so friendly, the free towel hire, and the big beautiful beds. If you're ever in Kyoto, I would definitely check this place out. I will say I will link all these places that I talk about down in the description below. Okay, now this third and final hostel is something special. Have you ever stayed in a ship? I didn't think so, and I hadn't either until I went to Stockholm. This is the STF AF Chapman, which dates back to the 19th century. This is why I love staying in hostels. You can find some really unique places in the world that you just wouldn't get if you stayed in a bog standard hotel. This hostel was a little more basic, but it was all worth it for waking up to these beautiful views of Stockholm. We arrived in Stockholm quite late when we visited, so my first impressions were in the morning. I woke up, crawled to the end of my bed, and all I could see was the water, Old Town, and the Royal Palace. The STF AF Chapman is a 3-mast, full-rigged ship in the centre of Stockholm city. The location was great, which made it easy to get to all the main attractions in Stockholm, such as the ABBA Museum. Now, from the outside, it doesn't actually look like a hostel. However, there are actually around 285 beds on both the ship and the building opposite. This hostel was around £20-ish per night, but so worth it. I will say I don't think I could stay on the ship for more than 3 days. You do get the bit of land sickness when you eventually go on land. I don't know if it's because I was drinking that weekend or it was the ship, because the ship looks pretty much stationary. So I was like, how do I feel like I'm moving? Obviously the ship is on the water. I will say, if you find yourself booking this hostel, just make sure you click on the rooms on the ship and not the other building. You do have free reign to wander around the ship. It was probably one of the coolest places I've stayed, and would highly recommend this to anyone visiting Stockholm. So, hostel tips. What would I recommend to you guys? I've got 4 tips. So tip number 1 is always look at the reviews of the hostel. Do not book a hostel without looking at the reviews, because you'll regret it, unless you're doing like a funky video idea. That is probably the only reason. I mainly book all my hostels on hostelworld.com, and there you can have a good trawl through all the reviews. Look at hostel reviews from like the 1-star to the 5-star, but don't look through too many because you'll just get confused. I would always say, if you get a really bad vibe about a hostel, like most hostels have complaints about bed bugs on them, don't let that faze you. Perhaps there might have been bed bugs, but you do have to remember there are people coming in and out of the hostel all the time, and someone might have a great experience in a hostel and another person might have a horrific experience in a hostel. I have certainly had my fair few of both. So yeah, always look at reviews, and if you have a bad gut feeling, do not book it, just find another one. Tip number 2 is consider how many people you want to share a room with. Hostels have dorm rooms in it, which can have up to like 30, 40, maybe 40, maybe even 50, I don't know, people in the same room. I think the most people I've stayed in a room with, and I paid £2 for a hostel when I was in Thailand, but there was 20 other people in the room and there was only 2 bathrooms, so keep that in mind. I will say 4 to 6 is like the perfect amount of people, or no more than 8. I would try not to stay in a hostel room with no more than 8 people, because I feel like the rooms just get really messy. Everyone just tends to get on top of each other, and it's just not for me. Thirdly, what are you looking for in a hostel? Are you literally just going to be there to keep your head there at night and then explore all day? That's great. Or would you like to pay a little bit more money to stay in something cooler like the ones that I've shown today? So consider what you're actually going to be doing on your trip. If you're staying there for a considerable amount of time, you probably want to pay a bit more for like a comfier, nicer hostel. Number 3, consider what you're looking for in a hostel. Are you just going to be there for a couple of days and you're not really bothered and you just book the cheapest one? Or are you going to be there for 1 week, maybe a couple of weeks, and you want to find somewhere that's a bit more homely and that you can really feel comfortable at, or pay a little bit more for a unique boutique hostel, maybe even the ones that I've shown you in today's video? Okay, tip number 4, which is the only tip you really need to consider, is what kind of person are you? Are you someone that wants to go out and get so lashed every night, or are you someone that likes to just chill, not really interact with people and just do your own thing? Or are you in the middle? I would definitely say I'm in the middle. I would say early 20s, I loved hostels where it was like party every night. Now and again, not so much. I typically look at hostels and I'm like, if they advertise that they are the biggest party hostel in town, I'm not booking that stuff, because I actually would like to sleep. I'm more of a get up early, like get up at 6, 7 a.m. and go explore, rather than drinking till like 5, 6 in the morning. So definitely consider what your needs are to the hostel that you are booking. If you're a party person, look for a party hostel. If you're a chill person, don't book a party hostel. So that is it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope it has changed your perspective on what hostels are actually like. I've stayed in so many hostels like all around the world. I've had good experiences, bad experiences, and you just have to remember it's not permanent, it's temporary, and the likelihood is it's going to make a funny story. I've honestly stayed in some really, really, really questionable places, but they've made the best travel stories. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a thumbs up. It really helps support the channel. You can follow me down on social media on Instagram, and that I'll leave all the details below, and I will leave all the details to these 3 hostels down in the description below. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It's been fun. I'll see you in the next one. So yeah, peace out. Peace out, peace out, peace out.